Hello everyone, this is me Kish again, bringing to you a new video today. And I apologize that it's been a while since I recorded one. There was a long weekend here in the US, as well as some urgent family matters intervened. So after a short break, I'm coming back with a bunch of new videos. In fact, there's been long pending. I've had all these thoughts, but I haven't had a chance to record them. So here we go. Let's start with our first one, which is BJP describes a suicide as a murder and also names the suspect. Right. So recently in the news, you've all been reading about BJP talking about to us that apparent suicide that happened a while ago is really a murder, and they even went ahead and told us who the culprit was and who in their mind was the reason for or the murderer, right? And then all these news channels have been going off like crazy, talking about some really focusing on the real issues, talking about this stuff, and others focusing on various other issues, right? And yes, so folks who are getting all excited, or even some of you who are getting worried, sorry to disappoint you, but this video is not about Sushant Singh Rajput and the case, or about Ria Chakraborty or drugs or whatever the hell. It is about the economy. Right, so I don't want to keep the suspense going for too long, but here is where I tell you the facts. So I'm not interested that much, or I don't care that much about the Sushant Singh Rajput case. I don't know what happened over there. Maybe it was murder, maybe it was suicide. I have no idea. The police will tell you, or hopefully, if we ever get to the truth, or CBI will tell you, whoever will tell you. But this is about the economy. So recently, our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who I don't understand is why she is still the finance minister, came out and told us that the contraction in the economy is an act of God, right? And she has now termed what is apparently a suicide attempt by Modi by calling in the lockdown without thinking twice as a murder attempt, and she has named the murderer as God who murdered the economy. Right? So let's analyze this statement and and kind of try to figure out that what is really happened here. Is it an act of God or is it an act of suicide? And who is the real murderer or who is the real person who committed the suicide? Right, and as data came out, the economy in that particular quarter, which is like the first quarter if you measure Indian way, but if you measure calendar year way, it's the second quarter, which is from April to June, April, May, June. The contraction in the Indian economy was minus 23.9%, and that did not include the informal sector. So it is probably over 50% when you include informal and sector, and when the revised numbers keep coming out. And that's no surprise because the entire country was shut down. India had the worst or the most severest lockdown in the whole world, probably. And imagine 1.3 billion people just stopped doing whatever they do and were sitting at home and hoping and praying and everything, and following every instruction, watching TV or other media, and following all the instructions of Modi. And at that time, obviously, everyone was really scared about, and we didn't have a lot of information about COVID, and folks didn't know what this was, or how serious or how dangerous it is. So some of it is expected as well. It was a nation completely under lockdown, so a 50% or even bigger drop in the economy is not surprising, right? As well as India had the strictest lockdown, and again, it should be no surprise that India's economy shrinkage was the worst in the world, right? At least in the G20 countries. But I think when you get the real number, that's what they have told you in the media now, looking at the 23.9. But when the real number of over 50%, adding in all the informal sector and everything else comes, it may be one of the deepest shrinkages in the entire world. In fact, maybe barring, I don't know, a country like, or some areas like Australia who have shut down for like an entire year or something, or New Zealand maybe. where they totally gone crazy and shut it down forever type of deals that I see in the news. So so let's dissect this. So in hindsight, today we are India is so when the lockdown was initiated, even back then I was of the opinion, I have even made a video that about strategic evacuation being the only solution to stop corona spread or to stop at least the deaths from corona, right? And going towards some kind of herd immunity, even if it excludes older population of 60 plus, is the only way disease until we get a vaccine, right? That's kind of what I have been maintaining from the start, and I have been opposed to these lockdowns, especially see at least Western countries. You can think that they at least can afford a lockdown. Yeah, GDP suffers, a lot of people lose their job, but nobody's going to starve at least, or at least not a lot of the people will be starving, and those people can be helped, right? Whereas in a country like India, with majority like millions and millions, crores and crores living on meager food, like getting day to day livelihood with hardly any money, any savings, anything kept aside, they're going to be starving like crazy all over the place if you shut down the country like that for 3 months. So, and again, so in my opinion, this was the third suicide attempt, if you want to call it suicide, or it's really a murder, in my opinion, at this point, that Modi committed of murdering the Indian economy, right? So, to me, the real culprit is not God. The real culprit is only Modi. China did not tell you, the world, nobody told you that yes, there is a virus, but then you shut down the whole economy. The contraction in the economy is because of the lockdown. That again was a decision, hasty decision taken overnight in an 8 p.m. speech. So suddenly at 6 p.m. Modi realizes, okay, I got to do a lockdown. He calls a speech at 8 and and announces it to the entire country. Within a few hours we're all going into a lockdown, right? I don't know. I have nobody's privy to how he got to this decision. I can understand Western liberals in Europe and US advising this, and even Trump was forced to do this lockdown at that point of time. But later on, you have seen that in California, in Texas, in Florida, over the last 2 3 months, though the cases started to spike again in a second wave in the United States, without lockdown, the entire south of the US has been able to control corona, and we are the infections are number of cases are way down right now compared to what they were like even a couple of months ago in like places like Texas, California, Florida, large states comparative to Indian population. Of course, I understand India is much bigger, but still large states, and controlled without doing any lockdowns while things are opening up. And in India, finally, they have realized too, and now they're opening up blindly all over the place with removing all the restrictions, right? So, this we could have done from day one. I don't see why we needed a lockdown from the start. I guess soon other people are going to also get to this opinion as they see the consequences and how we all are seeing that the lockdown has not prevented India from becoming the number one in corona cases and deaths in the entire world. And some of it shouldn't be a surprise given the population, given the decades of socialism we have had, and the result of that being massive poverty, massive uncleanliness, not clean country, and massive lack of healthcare resources and any provision for people to get healthcare or be able to even afford healthcare, right? So given all these scenarios, it cannot be a surprise, and given the population of India, that India is going to be number one in this. So, but what is somewhat of a surprise is Middle East is not doing so badly. They are also a country probably in worse shape than India in terms of all these indicators, poverty, healthcare, and so is Africa. So today, yeah, I understand, yeah, even Europe and America is worse than Africa in corona, but India is the worst, and what do you call, India is going to be worse than Middle East, Africa, and places like that, which are kind of doing even worse than India in economic indicators. And why is that? That's as far as Corona is concerned. So we didn't control Corona or anything, but we shut down the economy, and we also ensured that uh, what do you call economically as well, we are kind of, at least for the time being, becoming worse than many of these places in terms of our GDP growth, going from the number one growing economy in the world to probably the number one contracting economy in the world, right? And again, I described this earlier as a third attempt by Modi, third suicide attempt. So let's discuss why that is. So as already you should know in the media, so these are so made Modi has this tendency to kind of, yes, some people appreciate it as great bold decisions, but these are clearly thought out decisions taken in a haste, which is very in the beginning it is cheered like as the greatest thing and the most amazing thing, but in the end it only ends in tears, right? So I'll make another video to go just into these cheers to tears Modi decisions, right? So the first one of these was the demonetization. Again, I don't know what experts were consulted, how they arrived at this conclusion that this is the only solution, is to torture the poor people and what do you call of India across the board, and just withdraw all the money, and that's going to somehow what do you call make the rich and the ones with a bunch of black money suddenly lose their money. Can there be anything more ridiculous than that? I don't understand, but that's the decision that was made. And what we saw, all the money came back, and every rich guy found a way to somehow work the system and get his money exchanged, while the poor suffered, or with no money, struggling with no jobs, and already they were on day-to-day wages with no food, and they were hit on their stomach again over there to start with. So that to me is the first suicide attempt of Modi to kill the Indian economy. The second suicide attempt was with the GST, right? It's been years since the GST came into place, and now you see within what's 2 or 3 years there is no money for that the government has collected in order to pay the states, which is understandable given the lockdown. But I don't know. I mean, or to be very honest, I don't know all the details of the GST. All I know is it's like throwing a monkey wrench into the system and making it worse for everyone. Right? Changes like this have to be brought in a phased manner. You cannot just overnight flip a switch and say, okay, now we switch to a new system without what do you call any preparation time, without any training, without any phasing in, without any proper arrangements to make such changes. Any of these plans. So, like I don't know, most many of us might work in IT or any industry. When you are changing from an old system, old software to a new software, you do like an upgrade. Those are years worth of projects. It's not something that you just decide one day and in a couple of months you just throw the old one out and put the new one in, right? And that's for a company, small companies which just have a few thousand or million users, go through months and months of practice and months of upgrade cycles, right? And given a country of 1.3 billion people, how can you just throw away the old stuff and bring in something new overnight and expect that everything is going to go smoothly from that point on? Which is completely ridiculous. And that was the second suicide attempt. But the third one was really a murder attempt, in my opinion. It's not even a suicide, because this is the most ridiculous decision probably that it might go down. Yeah, we can just, I understand Europe did it, America did it. I made another video about what we should copy from Europe and America, whereas many countries in East Asia didn't do it. Like South Korea did not do a lockdown. Many places didn't do a lockdown. And now, in hindsight, we are able to see even in the United States that without lockdown, folks were able to control corona. And today, as the second wave is hitting Europe, even the Europeans have realized that lockdown is the wrong way to go, and now they are talking about not doing lockdown and how we can control corona without it, like in France, for example, right? Because where the cases are now today, their peaks are even higher than the ones they saw in the first wave, but they're not talking about lockdowns. So I thought that we could have at least given it more thought rather than just react in panic over there, do some more further discussions, conversations, and before going into a blind lockdown, especially for a country like India with so many poor people. So now the ramifications of what these kind of suicide attempts, murder attempt that has been made by Modi, which majority of the channels are not discussing. They're more interested in Sushant and Riya and Kangana and whatnot. They are not interested in the real problems with the Indian economy, probably because these are created by Modi and they don't want to talk about it. Whatever the reason, at least there are some channels who are discussing them. Uh, you know, not that I'm a big Congress fan or anything, but in this case, this is really atrocious what has happened to the Indian economy and what has been done in many ways. Yes, you can say to an extent unintentionally, but definitely not giving enough thought and in a very hasty way. I hope that at least after seeing these consequences, we stop these kind of crazy 8 p.m. speech decisions on the just on the whim and fancy of Mr. Modi, and at least we get some real thought into this. And another thing that I am disappointed with is, despite the status of the economy and it going from bad to worse to ruin, I understand to an extent it's not a fault of the finance minister. Why is she still in this position? I don't see that she has any great credentials to be a finance minister, and there are definitely way more qualified people. But the very fact that Modi does not want to change her and want to continue with these kind of people, sycophants, tells you that he's not really that serious about the economy, right? And which is very sad state of affairs for me. So I'll make a different video about where I see the economy headed from here. I am afraid that it is not great news, though the media wants to talk to you about a V-shaped recovery and whatnot. I only see a L-shaped or even a worse I-shaped downturn in the Indian economy, right? Or at least a K-shape maybe, wherein the economy goes to the drain, whereas the stock market probably still keeps going up for a while. Even that may not last too long. So we can talk about that in a different video. So, but I wanted to cover in this video how a suicide attempt is described as murder, and they try to what do you call accuse God at this time. And luckily, the only positive in that, I guess, is they didn't accuse Nehru. So they found a new culprit other than Nehru this time, because anything and everything the bad that happens is supposed to be caused by Nehru. Right? They're going to probably blame Corona and the health infrastructure and what do you call lack of it in India and poverty and everything on Nehru and Indira Gandhi, I'm sure, and which they deserve blame for that too. They're the ones who brought us. But luckily, yeah. So you can be happy that now a new culprit has been found, and there is God, and not what do you call, not Nehru. But we have gone through in this video and described to you as the who the real culprit is, and hoping now that there will be serious changes in the way we approach these decisions, as well as in the way we work towards recovering this economy. We can talk about that in a different video. Thank you. Bye.